What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com, coming at you with another AMA Ask Me Anything episode. This one's all about muscle glycogen. You know, how do you replenish, replace, and maximize the fullness feeling you get while on a ketogenic diet? But before we dive into that, let's roll the intro. All right, so this question is brought to us by Hunter, and they ask, in regards to intramuscular glycogen storage and looking and feeling full, do you find that keto still has the ability to fill you out? I assume this is possible through gluconeogenisis, but to what extent? I've been lifting for 19 years and never been as lean as I would like to be, hoping keto will get me there. Currently 1 month into a caloric deficit with keto, and I'm struggling with this flat, deflated muscle sensation. Eating for keto is easy, but the psychological trauma of looking, feeling smaller is a problem. I'm hoping this is primarily due to being in a caloric deficit while on keto, and that maybe if I were in a caloric surplus, I'd be fuller. Please help. The struggle is real. All right. Great question, Hunter. So, as the FASTER study has illustrated, basically once you become deeply fat adapted, your body's ability to refrain from using stored muscle glycogen is improved, and your body's ability to replenish that which is used is also improved. So being fully fat adapted is of paramount importance when it comes to replenishing and replacing and keeping those levels topped off from a muscle glycogen standpoint. That muscle glycogen is what keeps that full feeling. 1 gram of water or 1 gram of glycogen holds about 3 grams of water. So when people go keto, they stop eating carbs, stop eating sugars, they flush out a lot of that water, and then they feel a little bit deflated and flat because they don't have as much glycogen there storing the fluid. You don't want a bunch of extracellular water between your muscles and your skin. That's going to make you look soft and kind of doughy, but you want as much water in the muscle tissue as possible. So having a full tank of muscle glycogen is advantageous, which you're able to do once you are deeply fat adapted. Now, when it comes to optimizing that, I don't know if you've been in keto. It sounds like from your question that you started keto to lose weight specifically, so you're in a caloric deficit at the moment. I don't typically recommend starting keto already in a deficit if you're trying to optimize, how your muscles feel and look from a performance standpoint for that very reason. Basically, you're not fully adapted yet, so your body's ability to replenish, replace, and store muscle glycogen is a little bit hindered. That will come, but it's a little bit hindered. But doing that while also going into a deficit is going to be kind of like a double whammy for basically keeping your muscles looking a little bit more flat. Even if you were not following a ketogenic diet, even just natural bodybuilders in general that are following a traditional diet filled with a bunch of carbohydrates. Once they dip into a significant deficit, they are always looking flat. That's why they have to do a carb load to fill out before the show. You can bypass that with a properly implemented ketogenic diet if you are fat adapted, but if you're not yet fat adapted and you're in a caloric deficit, like I said, you got a double whammy for making your muscles look and feel a bit flat. My personal recommendation would be to either stay in a caloric maintenance or surplus for a bit longer, all with ketogenic protocol to allow your body to adapt fully. Honestly, just simply perform better too, and then double down on that. Be there for 3 months, 6 months ideally at least before transitioning into a deficit. And then once you do transition to a deficit, you're not going to notice as much of that flat feeling. Also, when you're in a deficit and when you don't have as much fluid in your muscle tissue as you would like, doubling down on your electrolytes and making sure you have a proper electrolyte equilibrium with how much water you're drinking, how much sodium and potassium you're consuming through your food, and what you're supplementing is also very, very important. That's also going to work to keep that fluid in your muscle tissue and not just excreted through urine and also just in your subcutaneous layer of skin. So to summarize, I would recommend being in a maintenance or surplus for a bit before going right into a deficit if you're not yet fat adapted. If you do want to just keep rocking the deficit, then just recognize that you're going to be a little bit depleted for a while. You're going to look a little bit flat. You can still get deeply adapted in the context of a deficit, but you're going to have a little prolonged feeling of looking flat in the interim. And then make sure that your sodium and your potassium levels are in check and you're drinking enough water to stay hydrated and keep that muscle tissue filled with as much fluid as possible. So hopefully that answered your question, Hunter. Thanks so much for the question. You requested some chocolate peanut butter cup bricks, so I've got some of those headed your way. For those of you that do not know how these AMA videos work, you submit me a question via the Google form description in the description below, and I use that question. I will send you some free keto bricks with the flavor of your choosing, and just a good win-win all around. I get a great question, you get some keto bricks, and I get your question answered, so everybody wins. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. See you next time.